Are you pregnant and anxious about breastfeeding? Maybe you're worried about low milk supply or latching issues. If that's the case, if you're pregnant and you're worried about if you're going to be successful on your breastfeeding journey, then this episode is definitely for you. Today, I am going to be tackling the two most common breastfeeding challenges, and more importantly, we're going to talk about how to overcome them. So, if this is your first time breastfeeding and you're worried, or maybe you're just worried about what lies ahead, then don't worry, I got you. My name is Stephanie Poole. I'm a certified lactation consultant and doula, and I am here to help guide you through your breastfeeding journey. I help pregnant women just like you to breastfeed their babies confidently, even before the baby arrives. Okay, so I am going to jump right in. And the very first reason why most new moms, and I'm talking specifically to you if you are pregnant and this will be your first time breastfeeding. I work in a hospital. I am in there every day on ground zero, helping new moms jumpstart their breastfeeding journey. And one of the biggest things that I get day in and day out, I can't even count how many times on my shift I hear moms say, I don't think I'm making enough milk. To that, I say this. We have a few things that as long as you're doing, you should be more than capable of making enough milk for your baby. Now, the first thing is with a lot of lactation consultants, you'll hear them say that breastfeeding works on supply and demand. But I actually like to flip that on its head. And I say that breastfeeding works with demand and supply. And the reason for that is because you have to demand the milk and then your body will supply it. Sometimes if it's worded supply and demand, it implies that the supply is there and people are demanding that supply. But that's not really the case, especially in the early days of breastfeeding. You have to demand that milk, and then when your body gets those signals that, oh, the baby is hungry, I need to make more milk, then it will supply. So it's more of demand and supply versus supply and demand. That's number one. The more your baby nurses, the more milk your body will make. So every time you drain your breast, it is sending a signal to your factory. And I have another video actually that I will tag below where I talk about anatomically how your breasts are meant to make milk on demand. I'll link that below if you're interested in doing a deep dive on that. But essentially, when you drain your breast, you are sending the signal to your body to then act as a factory and get that assembly line going to make more milk. I talk about in there how you never have to run out of milk because you're essentially making it as your body is demanding it. So it's super important that in those first few hours, days, and weeks that you are feeding your baby frequently because that will send the signal to your body, make more milk. The second thing that you can do to make sure that you are making enough milk is to stay hydrated. Sometimes if you don't have enough, right? If you're not nourished well enough to supply what your body needs to recover from pregnancy and birth, then it's absolutely unreal to ask your body to not only heal and repair your body to get it back to that pre-pregnancy state, but also to provide the milk source that your baby needs. You have to stay nourished. You have to stay hydrated, making sure that you are taking in, because I know, and let me pause and say, I know that this becomes an issue when we talk about having that snapback. A lot of clients will talk to me about how they're trying to get back to a certain pre-pregnancy weight, but we have to give ourselves time. And when you're breastfeeding, you kind of have to give yourself grace because you can't severely restrict your calories or your hydration and expect to have a good output when it comes to your milk supply. The next thing I want to talk about in terms of making sure you have enough milk, that your baby is getting enough milk, is to actually not supplement too early or too often. And by supplement, I mean with formula. Again, in the hospital, one of the things I see very, very often is moms will panic. I don't think I'm making enough milk. So the response, kind of their knee-jerk reaction, is then to go in and start supplementing because they want the baby to eat. Your baby's tummy is super small, especially in those first few hours and days after birth. So they don't need much to even be satisfied. You don't have to make a full few ounces even. You can make just a couple milliliters and keep them satisfied. So the requirement is very low. We should, first of all, adjust our expectations that you don't need to make a full bottle's worth of milk, especially in those first few hours and days after giving birth. Okay. With that being said, if you have the knee-jerk reaction of supplementing the baby, meaning they need to eat right away, and I don't think I'm making enough milk, let me give them formula. Unfortunately, what that does is it slows down that ramping up process in the factory. So remember, just a few minutes ago, I talked about how our bodies are like factories. And when we demand that milk, our bodies rev up to then start producing the milk that you're demanding. If you don't demand it, because instead of latching the baby, you start to supplement, or let's say you supplement it, and so now you are going to use this as a free time, then you're not stimulating your breast enough to send that signal. You're interrupting that signal, that ramp up phase that your body needs to get into milk producing mode. So one thing that I always say is you have to stimulate your breast a minimum of 8 times in a 24-hour period. That is crucial, especially in the first few weeks of establishing your milk supply, so that you get a constant, steady flow of draining the breast and refilling the breast, draining and refilling, so that your body can get used to making the amount of milk that you actually need. So keep those things in mind. Okay, now moving into the second most common reason that women, especially first-time moms, stop breastfeeding is because of latching. And it becomes a full-on issue. In the hospital, we get moms that are already in a very sensitive space because, again, their hormones are really fluctuating and starting to plummet down to the pre-pregnancy levels after birth. And the slightest little thing is enough to really make them emotional and feel as though they are not able to feed their baby. And so I get calls often to come into the room and do a consult when moms are having trouble latching. And so I want to give you a couple tips for you to be able to kind of use and having your arsenal. And hopefully this will help you avoid having this particular challenge, which could ultimately lengthen your breastfeeding journey. Okay, so when it comes to latching, here's something you need to remember. Positioning is key. It is key. As a matter of fact, sometimes when I'm working with a patient, it takes the smallest tweaks and the moms will then say, oh yeah, this feels so much better. So what you want to remember is that their head, their neck, their back, everything needs to be in full alignment, meaning it needs to be in a straight line. If this is your nipple here, then baby needs to be like this on the breast, not turned out, not face in. The face, the tummy, everything, you should be tummy to tummy. So their tummy should be turned in and they should be laying straight. Positioning is key. And the reason why I'm bringing up positioning first is because if you can get the right position, I'll talk about a couple other things you can do as well, but positioning will help you to have control of the baby's head and neck, All of that is so important because you got to remember you're dealing with a newborn. Newborns don't have muscle control. So by default, they're very floppy. And having that control, keeping them in a straight alignment will absolutely help with your positioning. And that positioning will help you to latch the baby better. The second key component to getting a good latch is making sure that the baby takes in not just the nipple. We don't want the baby on the tip of the nipple. That's an absolute no-no. It will cause damage if the baby is not on your breast deep enough. So we want the baby to take in your full nipple and even part of the areola. So that darkened area around the nipple, we want all of that in the baby's mouth. Now, this is important to stress because, again, I've gone into rooms, I've done consults with patients, and I've heard women say, I don't want to smother the baby. Especially if they feel like their breasts are large, which oftentimes due to birth, due to breastfeeding, there is some swelling there, right? If they had a C-section, they might have some water retention going on. And so their breasts are full and larger than what they are used to. And so sometimes they'll be like, I don't want to smother the baby. Trust me, you are not going to smother the baby, but it is important that they have not just your nipple, but your full nipple and the surrounding areola in their mouth to be able to get a nice deep latch. Now, when it's all said and done, you wait for the baby to open wide, you put everything in and allow the baby to get on with a nice deep latch. You should not feel pain. There might be slight discomfort, but you should not feel pain. There's a difference. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean. So once you get the baby latched, you should be able to calmly scroll your phone or watch a movie or talk on the phone. You should be able to relax and just sit back without necessarily thinking about the fact that you're feeding your baby. So in those early days, you may express some discomfort just from your breast being tender with the baby learning how to suck and having that happen more than probably what you're used to, right? So it takes a little bit of time to get used to that. With that being said, it shouldn't be painful. If you put the baby to breast and you notice it's been 30 seconds, a full minute, and you're like wincing, then you need to unlatch the baby and reattach the baby to the breast. Now, I'm saying all of this, and I know that this stuff works because this is literally what we go over in the hospital. The difference is when I'm with them, I'm doing hands-on instruction, or I am working with a client virtually and we're able to view slides and we're able to watch videos and I'm able to really physically show them how to latch. Here's the thing. I'm saying all of this and I know that this stuff is in fact valuable because it is what we go over in the hospital. If you would like to see it in more detail, if you want to watch the videos, if you want to learn step by step and go into a deep dive of how to properly latch, how to line the baby straight, how to hold the baby in different positions, all of this information, I've created a course for pregnant women who want to jumpstart their breastfeeding journey. And it is called Teach Me How to Breastfeed. I'll have it linked below. It is hands down. First of all, it's lactation consultant approved. Hello. And I'll put it like this. I created the course I wish I would have had when I was trying to breastfeed as a first-time mom. That's how good it is. So if that is something that you're interested in, definitely look in the description box below. I'll have it linked. If you found value in this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and share this information. Share it out to other pregnant moms who might also find this information valuable. It's a game changer once you know what to do, especially straight out of the gate. It's so important that we don't get deterred, especially in those first hours, days, and weeks. And I literally walk into the hospital rooms every single day. And I'm fighting an uphill battle because before I can get in to do a good consult and get them straightened out, some moms are so frustrated. They're like, I can't do this. And I don't want that to be you. I want you to feel confident. I want you to have some things in your tool belt that you can use to help you get off to a fabulous breastfeeding start. So check out my course. It's linked down below. And until next time, happy birthing, happy breastfeeding.